Hi, I'm Jody Thomas. I'm here today to tell you about the consequences of smoking and using tobacco. Everyone is in harm's way when tobacco smoke is in the air, but many people benefit when just one person quits smoking. Do you or someone that you know smoke or use tobacco? Did you know that tobacco smoke itself is a human carcinogen? Tobacco, whether smoked, chewed, or sniffed, contains nicotine, which is highly addictive and contains over 19 carcinogens and 4,000 chemicals, according to the New York Times. Cigarette smoke contains more than 7,000 chemicals and compounds, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. We all need to do something to make a change. I investigated using facts and research from my own experience and the story of a man named Brian Curtis that never got the chance to tell his own story. He died at the age of 33 from oat cell lung cancer caused by cigarettes after only getting diagnosed 9 weeks before. Now let's talk about why it is important for you to make a change now instead of later. You do not have to be a heavy or long-time smoker to get a smoking-related disease or have a heart attack or asthma attack that is triggered by tobacco smoke, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Low levels of smoke exposure, including secondhand smoke, lead to a rapid and sharp increase in dysfunction and inflammation of the lining of the blood vessels, which are implicated in heart attacks and strokes. So even if you do not smoke cigarettes, your friends and your family members that are smoking can kill you. Now I want to take a minute to tell you a little about Brian Curtis' story. Brian Curtis started smoking at the age of 13, never thinking that 20 years later it would kill him and leave his wife and 2 children alone. In his last weeks, he set out with a message for young people: do not smoke. When Brian still had enough time and strength to leave the house, kids would stare at him. They would come up and look at him because he looked so strange. Brian would look at the children and say, "This is what happens when you start smoking." In Brian's emaciated hands, his wife has propped up a photo just taken 2 months ago. It shows a muscular and seemingly healthy Brian holding his 2-year-old son. In this picture, he is only 33 years old. Brian died only 9 weeks after finding out cigarettes, his biggest habit, was going to end his life. He never got the chance to tell his own story. Now that you have heard a little about Brian, I would like to tell you about my experience with smoking. I, like Brian, was highly addicted to tobacco. I started smoking when I was 18 years old. At the beginning, a pack would last almost a week. Then eventually the pack would not even get me through one day. My life revolved around smoking, so much so that I even smoked with my young daughter in the car. For years I wanted to quit. I quit and started again at least 10 to 15 times in 12 years. Finally, 4 months ago, I got really sick. I could not breathe without choking. I was coughing up blood. I shut the pack of cigarettes and have not and will not ever open that box again. Now that we have talked about why you should not smoke, I would like to take some time to discuss the consequences if you continue to smoke. According to the American Cancer Society, in the United States, tobacco use is responsible for nearly 1 in 5 deaths. This year, that equals 443,000 deaths. Each year, about 3,400 non-smoking adults die of lung cancer as a result of breathing secondhand smoke. Tobacco use is associated with increased risk of cancer of the lungs, mouth, and esophagus, according to the U.S. Department of Human Health and Services. There are many more reasons for you and people you know to quit smoking. Knowing the serious health risks may help motivate you, but what if the risk was to your child? Infant and children who are regularly exposed to secondhand smoke are at risks of many things: asthma, various infections such as ear infection and respiratory infection, lung damage and poor lung function, and sudden infant death syndrome, also known as SIDS. Now let's review. We can all see how dangerous using tobacco is, not only for a smoker, but also non-smokers as well. It is very addicting and extremely deadly. At the beginning, I said that we will all need to do something to make a change. What are you going to do the next time you see your friends and family members puffing smoke from their mouth? Just tell them Brian Curtis' story. They wanted you to know.